All right, I'm going to talk about this book, Brain Rules by John Medina. I just finished it. It's super good. My little brother asked for it for his birthday, and I got it at Barnes and Noble yesterday, and then I'm like, yeah, I could definitely got to read this. It's pretty awesome. Um, John Medina is I think it said molecular biologist. So definitely knows what he's talking about. It's really cool. Um, it specifically the two chapters I focus on the most were stress and memory. I'm going to talk mostly about memory today, but really it's kind of like just brain hacks that you should really read. It's pretty awesome. So in memory, the coolest thing I liked about this book is it talked about from an evolutionary standpoint, basically anything that isn't required for our survival, it is super easy to forget. Because we come from hunter gatherers, and the hunter gatherers, all they really needed to know was, where food was to remember and stuff like that. So I thought that was kind of interesting. That's why it's really important when that's why ultimately we forget things so easily. Um, I just thought that was cool to think of it like that. If it's not necessary for survival, it's not going to be too natural to remember it. So, in the modern world, we're going to have to seriously double down on memory, and I think that's an important thing. I want to commit to like 4x learning. Otherwise, I don't know what I'm doing out here. That's why I don't go to college anymore. But so practical tip when you need to remember something, it's better to space it out repetitively and learn in multiple interviews rather than all at once. And I think your parents and teachers probably try to tell you this when you're studying and stuff, but I don't really think they told you why, and I really don't think they even knew why ultimately. So, like it, it's pretty interesting to me because it's like when you try to remember something like tree, apple, corn, blah, 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 and you repeat it to yourself 1,000 times or whatever. Even if you do that all at once, it's not going to be as effective as going over like a list you have to memorize. For example, like one time, like once a day for like 4 or 5 days. So repetitive, yeah, kind of repetitive thinking is pretty awesome. He talks about, I think it's what's it? Let me double check what it's called here. Declarative memory, I think. Oh yeah. So effortful memory versus effortless memory. So effortless memory is like when you go. He used the example of a concert. You go to an event and you can remember what happened because it's part of visual learning. But effortless that's effortless learning. Effortful learning is when you have like numbers or patterns or like a list that you need to memorize. And the reason why it's so much harder and it requires more effort, hence the name effortful memory, is because there's no visual stimulation. And he goes into that in the book and says that vision ultimately trumps all senses. And a lot of people say that like it depends on who you are, which I would agree. Like I'm certainly a visual learner. I know a lot of people aren't, but regardless, visual stimulation is the number one way to memorize things. So best tip as I close out here in regards to that point is that if you have a list of something to memorize, associate it with a story you can visualize in your mind. So if you have a list of 10 words, go in order, create a story in your mind of how all those words tie together. I promise this works wonders for me. It's absolutely positive. All right. Lydia, say hi.